That's like when the first grader put me down
Oh yeah.
last week for weighing less than her dad.
My dad could be.
How much do you weigh? 185. Oh, my dad weighs more than 200. I was like, damn.
All right. You got me. That's a good point.
Hey guys, we are going to talk about the differences, some rules differences, some style and vibe differences between Baldur's Gate 3, which has taken over Mac and I's lives over the past few weeks.
70 hours.
It replaced watching old Gundam episodes for us, which was
honestly, we're gonna have to revisit that because I'm not done with Domonkashi. I'm not done. That's my man.
We're going to talk about some of those changes. First, we want to introduce the newest part of the Many Worlds Tavern team. We have Steven Harrison. Hello, Steven.
Hello, team Tavern.
Hello.
All many worlds of it.
Welcome.
Yes.
So many worlds.
You guys aren't supposed to talk until you get introduced. That's like podcast
Etiquette. I don't
but
listen to
it's okay.
podcasts. You can't get them on vinyl.
There you go.
That was a good joke.
We also have Andrew Lorman. Hello, Andrew.
Oh, it's me. Hey.
What's up?
Hello.
Have you ever been told that you look like you like if Ken, Barbie, and Wolverine had a baby?
Just everywhere I've been today, yes. I've been told that.
Multiple times throughout the day.
And Christopher McLean Howley, also known as Mac around these parts. How are you doing today?
Quite well. I am ecstatic to discuss the thing that has consumed my life after work for the last few weeks. I can jump so far.
Cool. I also got some info from Kat. I told her what we were going to talk about.
What a cat.
The fearless leader of the team. Not really, but she's doing
spiritual.
great.
L'chaim the cat.
Yeah. Okay, so if you don't know, Mac brewed us some. We haven't told people about this. This is a raspberry green tea that may find its way into
your cabinet.
A Many Worlds Tavern bag into your cabinet soon.
Into your mug.
Into your mug. I think he just burned his.
I did. Everything tastes like plastic
now. Okay, so Baldur's Gate 3, if you don't know,
I've heard of it.
It is a new video game. Andrew bought it 4 years ago. The pre-release
4.5 years ago.
It is a new game by Larian Studios, who is famous for the Divinity Original Sin games. And some other stuff, but they got the Baldur's Gate license from Wizards, and they made a game with D&D rules. It is really, really good.
It's so good.
But there's a lot of changes between it and D&D, and we wanted to talk about the differences. So I just have a list, and we can talk. If something gets you passionate, let's talk about it. But number one, and I think we can go from like more general meta differences before we go into some more specific rule stuff. But one big difference is how you roll in that game. You can see the percent chance to hit on your attacks, and also you can see the DC on rolls during the narrative. So I wanted to see what you guys think about that. In D&D, obviously, you don't have that percent floating up above people's heads, or you don't really have a specific DC in narrative because it can be a spectrum, I guess. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
I feel like this is good because we're both DMs.
Yeah.
So you're getting the DM perspective here. I don't think I'd ever, just on a regular basis, tell my players like what their target is. I think it'd be cool if there was some kind of spell or ability that, some kind of divination thing that let them like get that kind of metagame information. That'd be kind of cool.
Stat grab spell.
But yeah, I from what I played at Baldur's Gate 3, I appreciate it as like a gamer, like playing a video game. But at the table, yeah, I would probably never really consider it in any large form or fashion.
I do sometimes, and I feel like I just do it as it's not before they decide they're going to do something for my players. It'll always be once they commit to rolling, I'll be like, you're looking for a 15. You know, just to show some above board a little bit, so I'm not always like, gotcha, you know. But I think we talked about this a while back. There's sort of the video gaminess to it, right? That I think it works, and I like that it's there. I think
It's definitely, it gives you a lot more of like a streamlined process with it.
Yeah.
So you're not having to guess like, oh, okay, I've missed 3 times. Why? Do I need to be closer? Cool.
I have told people like this is going to be very difficult, or like it'll be pretty easy. I've gotten out of the habit now of asking them to roll. I think it was like a Matt Mercer thing where he asked them to roll no matter what. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, if something crazy isn't going to happen if you fail, like just
do it.
Like just do it.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to waste time rolling.
I like to give hints.
And so I think my
Sprinkle in the
table
middle.
knows like if I'm asking them to roll, like there is a chance of failure. Like it's not something simple. And then sometimes I'll be like, oh, it looks really difficult. Or I do like, I don't know if your players do the same thing, but they, like in a long drawn out fight, they will like start tabulating like what the like AC or if there's an enemy they kill a bunch of times, they're like, oh, it must have 52 HP.
yeah.
I'm like,
That's kind of my thought after that point. Like once you get to a certain level with your players, they're adventurers. They've seen stuff. They're going to know that. So if they are taking notes, good, you're learning. That's how you should be. 'Cause, I mean, if you're going to ask that question every time after you've faced enemies in that similar ballpark, then are we really adventuring?
Well, do you guys think you know, like, enough of the basic stats where you could know them? Like, you know what it is to hit a specific type of creature? Like, if you were to play, because since you've been DMing?
I mean, I would know that. Would my character know that?
yeah.
That's kind of,
That's
that's
the-
more my perspective.
line,
like,
right?
where are we with the way you play and the way that you, like, if you know all of it, great. You might be able to, like, hint to each other. But if someone's like, I know this one, we're good. I'm always like, whoa, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Immerse
Yeah.
yourself.
I haven't been in the role of the player often enough to know if I'd be good at ignoring metagame information that's lived in my brain for years.
Because that's the thing, is like, if you are DMing at the beginning, you know those things. So coming back into it and being a player, that's got to be a weird transition.
But yeah, that'd be like if I was a player and we came upon a group of brigands, the first question I ask is like, can I see what armor they're wearing? Can I see what they're holding in their hands?
Yeah.
My players have like never asked that information.
and it's so crucial.
But also, I play a very visual game, and like I typically throw up pictures of most of the stuff they're fighting.
So most of the time they can kind of assume based off the. I mean,
Yeah.
you got some cool minis, so I guess that makes sense.
What's his AC?
Yeah.
It's real high.
You need like a,
Just
you need like a
literally made
bucket
of metal.
of the brass and the silver, just in case, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's the wrong armor on the mini. Cool. What do you guys think about, like, what if you told, like, you're starting a fight, you don't tell them the AC, but like a few rounds in, after they've gotten a few swings in, like, do you think there's a point where you would be like, okay, you're looking for the 15, or to where, like, at least your characters like know what they've been hitting by that point, or are you good? I guess the only thing I'm thinking of is I like how snappy it is that I know that I got a hit or not in the game, in the video game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it kind of bogs down when you're like, did that hit? Did that hit?
That's what I mean. Like streamlines it a little bit for you.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I think when they start getting close to the AC for in combat specifically, it's the other checks that I'll occasionally be like, you're looking for 15. AC, they like the puzzle for me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I'll give them the, you barely miss or just barely hit. You know what I mean? So they start, because they like figuring it out along the way, especially if it's a creature that they've never seen.
Yeah, the little descriptors do help.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah. Put it in the game. Yeah. If they barely miss, like tell them that, it bounced off of the armor, and then maybe they surmise that they miss because of the amount of armor the guy's wearing. Or if they miss because the guy's dexterity is really high, like
Mhm.
maybe tell them they like just barely dodge out of the way.
Gotcha. Awesome. Yeah, I think it is a big change in a weird way in the game. It's definitely like that XCOM percent thing.
I love it in Final Fantasy Tactics, like
Oh.
knowing the percentage of the thing you're gonna do.
Cool. Okay. So I'm moving on. There are in Baldur's Gate 3, there are bonus actions that everybody can do every turn. And the main ones are shove, jump, dip, which is like when you dip your weapon or arrow.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and
Yes.
dodge, baby.
You can dip your stuff in your weapons into fire and poison and stuff like that.
I need to use that more.
You can drink potions as a bonus action, and you can not even as a bonus action, you can move inventory between characters even
Freely
freely and even beyond like far distances
in combat.
in combat.
At any time, really, but I think it does require
Yes,
an action
and-
for you to equip that. Like,
It's
say
an
you send a
action
weapon
to
to somebody.
equip.
Yeah.
But you can also drop things from your inventory for free,
That's
which is very
rules is written. You
That's
can
all-
drop
yeah.
things as a free action.
okay, there's a lot of cheese I've been doing.
a lot of cheese in there.
Like I turned the difficulty down to medium because I was relying on cheese in the early game because it was really difficult. Like the first mini boss, I cast Mage Hand, and then I just dropped a bunch of weapons on the ground. My Mage Hand could throw the weapons every turn. So
What?
it's like I had an extra.
Is
party
that
member.
on your list of rule differences?
Is that a difference?
Yeah.
What does Mage Hand do?
When you say
Almost.
throw, was it doing damage? Like
Oh,
throwing
oh, yeah.
for-
It was
oh.
like I had another party member.
It's
Oh,
it's kind of
wow.
like
Interesting.
spiritual weapon in a way, but it's not the weapon itself.
Wow.
It can freely throw and like move
Yeah.
things.
And I
Mage
like-
hand
yeah.
doesn't do a lot.
No, that's
Can't throw weapons.
Mage hand is like no, it can pick up things. I think it's like, 10-pound
yeah,
limit.
5 to 10 pounds.
Mage hand
dagger.
is really for like.
But can it throw it with
It's
dexterity?
I think that chest or that door is trapped.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna open it from over here,
Yeah.
and so you send your mage hand. It's like
That definitely does help.
it doesn't do a whole lot other than like maybe it'll grab an object for you, and maybe it'll like help you scout like that without hurting yourself.
Mm.
I think I gave that as a reward. I gave like a better mage hand to a sorcerer in one of my parties, just because that felt fun, and it ended up being a blast.
Okay,
'cause then
so
you
my-
kind of like carry one of the smaller characters down.
So my question is, if I was in your at your table, and I was like, "Can my mage hand throw this rock at the guy?"
It can certainly try. Right?
Yeah.
I might say yes,
Yeah.
but I would make you use like the equivalent of your actual character. Like if it's an action for your character to throw, I'd say, well, you have to use an action for your mage hand to throw it.
Okay.
Okay.
Which really, as the rules are written, that's kind of how it works for like animal companions. Like
Mm.
you might have like 4 animals with you as a druid, but they can only take as many attacks together as like you could yourself. And that's how they keep the rules from being broken.
That's a big style change. Rule
it's a big
and style
rule
change
change.
is the summons in Baldur's Gate are like their own
Characters. It's so fun.
Which I think if that was the tabletop, it would be horrible. Like you'd be so slow.
It's kind of like that.
It's kind of like that. Like every single summon has its own turn, or
Mhm.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
You
Well,
have to block
I
it off
typically
and-
have them act on the caster's turn. And then depending on their intelligence,
yeah.
if they're intelligent enough to understand the language,
Mm.
I'll let the caster control them because the
Mm.
caster can be like, go attack.
Yeah.
If they're not intelligent enough to understand a language, then I control it. And I normally just move it to like the closest enemy.
I think they roll their own initiative
in
in
Baldur's
the,
Gate, I
yeah
think so.
in the game, like
Yeah.
because I've had spiritual weapon come out and it'd be like
Yeah.
all the way at the end.
I will say summons are like super powerful
Yeah.
Mhm.
in the tabletop game as well.
They're powerful in Baldur's Gate too, and you can have a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Baldur's Gate, you can control everything. Like I was rolling with a crab for a while.
Dude, the crab rocks.
That was my find familiar.
So go back. Your original question was about the bonus actions, right?
The bonus actions were shove, jump, dip, drink potions, move inventory, which was even free. You can throw potions.
The potion
Which
throwing is fun.
I guess you can throw potions in D&D tabletop, but I think
So
they
that's as a
interact.
bonus.
Just as like the throw action. I
No,
think.
as a normal action. You can
Okay.
Is it normal action?
Yeah, what do you think of giving everybody shove?
I like everyone. It's kind of one of those things. Anyone can do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you are a little fellow with a strength of 6, you sure can try to shove that ogre.
You can.
know?
Absolutely.
But is it going to work? I don't know.
We always used it like in place of an attack. So it's
Yeah.
like even if you had 2 attacks in a round, you could use 1 to shove.
Hmm.
I think the only I do like the idea of table rolling like some standard bonus actions,
Mhm.
because I feel like the bonus, it's kind of strange to me that there's only certain characters at the table that get bonus actions. Like rules
I
as
did
written.
always find that to be a
Yeah.
little silly.
And it's like, like 3 of the characters will be using like their action every turn in their move, and then like the cleric will be like, and for my bonus action every turn.
Yeah.
Or the character with 2 weapons gets that offhand attack. I don't know. The action economy in 5e is kind of weird. So I don't know that shove. I would always say it's a bonus action, but
I guess that depends on your intent. Like if you're
Yeah.
if you're looking to push them prone and knock them down,
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, we're gonna make that into an action. But if
Yeah.
you're like, get the hell away from me, you're just shoving. You're just getting
Yeah.
away.
So that I guess would make more sense,
Yeah.
but I guess it really depends on how you approach it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. to
Bonus
me.
actions for all.
Yeah.
I
I thought
decree
you
it.
were asking for a second, can everyone in D&D shove? I said, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure. Knock them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
drinking a potion as a bonus action is interesting.
Hmm.
I don't think it like breaks anything, but it's definitely like I would probably roll that. Yeah, well, it's not an action. Maybe it took place of an attack too.
Really?
I don't know.
Because
Like,
the throw action with a potion, that's a bonus, right?
No, it's regular.
Regular action.
Throw is
the-
a regular action. Yeah.
Oh, okay, never mind.
because I remember we have a drunk barbarian.
Oh.
Oh, he was he originally in Pathfinder was like he was some kind of drunk. They weren't called subclasses in Pathfinder. They were called archetypes. And when we took him into 5th edition, there was no real drunk archetype that fit. But he's still like, it was like special for him to be able to drink a liquid as a bonus action.
He's super good at it.
He's
Like-
so good. He's so good at drinking.
Because this archetype in Pathfinder, like in Pathfinder, it was an action to quaff a potion, and so he could drink really fast. So I mean, just from that, it's like that's I'm kind of trained myself to think, oh, like it takes a while to drink a whole potion.
Yeah, he shotguns them.
bonus action shotgun tool. All right, let's go.
I guess the other aspect of rule balancing for me would be like a potion is basically like taking a class feature from like a divine caster and giving it to like anybody to use. And typically, like I think when you're using like a feature, like if you're a fighter and you get to drink like a healing thing, it's probably a whole action just for like the fact that it's not actually a class feature or something
Yeah.
cool like that.
Kind of in the vein of this bit is it's pretty generous with the action like economy.
Ugh.
Like you can do a lot of things on your turn before you end it, even if you have done action, bonus action, and you still have room to like put things on the ground or move things to other characters, and it's really generous with that.
That's why I was obsessed
Um,
with shoving, like
yeah,
because
shoving
I'd
is
do everything I
crazy.
could, and then it'd be like,
What else
shove.
am I gonna do?
You're close. I don't know. Push you over.
Yeah, it kind of caused us to die a lot early, but
Wait, so shove,
Oh yeah,
they either move backwards or they fall down?
there's no shoving to prone. It's just
yeah. It's,
shoving back.
you just move them. So I think
Okay.
that's why. I guess that makes more sense as to
So
why.
I
the
like that,
advantage.
like as a ranged character, like at the beginning of combat, being able to shove somebody away
Mhm.
so that you can use your ranged attack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, this one is very big, and the one I mentioned to Andrew before this recording that I think he's averse to. But for both, it happens in two main ways, I think. Anytime you cast a leveled spell as a bonus action, you can also cast a leveled spell for your action, which I think in D&D it's supposed to be a cantrip as your regular action. So this happens with your like sorcerer quicken spell. You can quicken fireball and then fireball. In Baldur's Gate, you can quicken fireball. So there's one example of it, of like the actions being really generous. The other one is haste, which I typed in our Slack that, wow, haste is powerful, and I didn't realize it's different in tabletop. But in haste, I guess from 5e, your haste action can be used only to take the attack, one weapon attack only, dash, disengage, hide, or use an object action. But in Baldur's Gate, you can do anything, any action. So what you could do is you can have a sorcerer quicken spell for 2 fireballs, multi-class with a fighter with action surge for a third.
That's what I was going to say. It
fireball.
sounds just like action surge, basically. Haste
It
is
It
like
is an extra
Absolutely.
action surge, and then you can drink a speed potion for the 4th fireball, and then there's a circlet that gives you a bonus action if you use fire damage on your turn or something. So you can get like 5, and then I read there was like a way to get 6, but I haven't figured out how to get 6 yet.
I mean, my run through is I've got a fighter. I have a fighter and a monk right now, and it's literally like 4 actions per turn. I'm just swinging and lacerating and punching and flurries. It's ridiculous. Like having those 2 up front. We have an assassin. I have like a dual wield assassin, and you popped in as a cleric yesterday, and. Ooh. That's a good team right there, man.
You got some very long turns. It's fun. Yeah. What do you think about all that in tabletop?
So the rule as written, I think, is that if you cast 2 spells in the same turn, one of them has to be a cantrip. So I think it's both for the sorcerers, but I think it's also for like clerics casting spiritual weapon. So spiritual weapon's a bonus action.
Yeah.
And then if you cast a
regular
spell
action
as your
is the
regular
cantrip.
action, it has to be a cantrip.
How close do you hold that, like, to the T? Rules as written.
Andrew likes rules.
Rules guy?
Big rules guy.
I don't know that I'm a big rule. Like I let them bend rules. I just also I'm big on like let's not change the rules until like we all kind of agree on
So
it.
everybody gets with it. Word.
And so most situations we get to where it's like, well, do we bend the rules or break them? It's normally like a bending for me, just because like I don't want to make a decision on this one circumstance that somebody else like, well, you didn't let me do that.
Andrew, it's not
So
fair.
I don't know. I was telling Chris earlier, it's like honestly one of the only rule. I mean, there's probably a few in 5th edition where it's like they specifically made that decision, I think, for balancing. They were like, all right, like it's too powerful if somebody can cast multiple spells in the same turn. And it is one of those rules that just kind of feels like, well, it feels strange because it is more of like a meta rule than it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I will say I ran a Strixhaven campaign, and in that setting, everybody's at a wizard school, and it says in the content that there's like serious magical attunement in this area. So I was like, okay, if they're going to school to be mages, they should be able to use their spells fairly regularly. So I kind of bent that rule for that regard, but it was super explainable, and like everybody was already going for something that was casting wise.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're going for something like that, it could be totally fine if that's the way that you want to build it. But if you switch it in the middle, that's tough. Like to try to make all the other rules follow after the fact, because then you kind of have to go from there because you set the standard that way. But I mean, I like having fun. I don't know if we can talk to our group about it.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is crazy to like storm sorcerer, like drop a big spell and then fly across the map and drop another big one. It's very powerful. It's like I'm dropping bombs.
And then you just
It is fun. Yeah, I think there's definitely like, yeah, it's almost like everything else has to scale up if you allow that. Like, you know, the other stuff
Pretty
has
much,
to be
yeah.
stronger. You have to let the enemies do that as well. So,
because the monsters know what they're doing.
Yeah.
We found out recently.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I've got a couple more big ones, and then we can do like a quick fire.
Well, I didn't really hear. I mean, what's your thought on rule bending versus?
My primary rule is the rule of cool.
True.
You know what I mean?
True.
Like, usually I'll stick close to it, but we have a house rules document where it's like, hey, it says here that we've done this. and
Respect.
that's-
No,
you
if
know
you
what I
got
mean?
that,
like,
then-
hey,
Yeah.
drink
You
your
gotta-
potion.
you gotta
as a bonus
document the
action.
cool.
Yeah. And so, like, as a player, I've lightning bolted twice in a turn. My guy was really angry, and he was a sorcerer, so
Hey, look,
I will say I am more likely to like reward creativity than I am to reward people just trying to metagame.
that
absolutely.
yes, that
That's
I think
that
is the
my
line.
point.
Yes,
I'm a rule of cool.
Like
for
there was
creativity.
Yeah.
there was a point way back in our Pathfinder campaign when I was still like kind of new a DMing Pathfinder, and like there was like this catfolk ninja that like did this big leaping jump to like try to stab this thing in midair, and I was like, all right, give me a roll. And like I still regret it because he missed, and not only did he miss, he did like a critical miss, and so he ended up and like infecting himself with something on the ground. And I'm like, man, like
You fell immediately into a pool of acid.
yeah, it was kind of funny, but it also just would have probably been a lot more fun if I had let the guy do like the really cool thing that he wanted
Yeah.
his character
Yeah.
to do.
I know what you mean.
yeah.
So that's why I've kind of adopted that sense is like if you like just really want to be creative
Yeah.
and come up with something cool, like I'm not gonna cramp your style by throwing rules at you.
I think
Yeah.
that's the best part about the game, though, is to me is the ability for you to use it as the framework for your world, and
Yeah.
then as a group, depending on how you want to play, your sessions become better when everybody's like, okay, let's work together and figure this out. And
Yeah.
you're right. Rewarding creativity is the best way to have a blast. Like I want you to give me something challenging and new. Like if I want you to be the hero, give me that. Give me that information. What makes you the hero?
Yeah.
I'm running into this weird thing in Baldur's Gate though with creativity because
Because
I have
it's a
to-
video game.
no, that's the thing. It's like yes, I agree. It's like
We need like a scribble.
it lets you do pretty creative things, but then after you do the creative thing, I feel like I have to like self-limit myself to like not do it every fight. It's like the mage hand throwing. I was like, wow, it works. And then I'm like, I can do this every fight. And then I don't think in tabletop there's this condition, but in Baldur's Gate, there's a condition called wet. So if you like,
It's a divinity thing, yeah.
okay, and it doubles lightning damage.
That's
Like
a lot.
Doubles.
Doubles.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
So the first
That's a
time I
lot.
threw like a jug of water on somebody, I'm like, yeah, it works. And now I'm like, I just carry jugs of water every
Now you're just
And the
I'm a
other-
water
the
balloon
third thing
sorcerer.
was the boxes. Like you can carry boxes in the
Yeah.
game. And you can get high. There's high ground in Baldur's Gate.
Dude,
There's, like,
I love
defined high
yoinking a
ground.
chest that I can't break into and then dropping it on the ground later and be like, okay, I finally have some use tools.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun, but yeah, part of me is like, I'm not gonna do the water thing every fight. If a big boss needs, like, is hard, then yeah, it'll be fun to like utilize those tools.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Because there's a lot to that creativity. Because I've seen just like the thumbnails for videos of people using like an inventory full of boxes to climb like 50 feet in the air and then do like a top rope slam on somebody. And I'm like, dude, what?
yeah,
I would never have thought
yeah,
of
the
doing something
throw
like
damage scales with height. I
Yes.
don't know if that happens in
Oh
tabletop.
wow.
But yeah, so a lot of people are doing like
that.
Rogue
I'm trying
barbarians.
terminal velocity.
They're like misty
Vibes.
stepping really high and then throwing stuff, and it's scaling too much. It's a lot of damage.
I've seen the owl bear part where
Oh, yeah,
they
you
like
can
put
throw-
an owl bear way up, and he
Yeah.
does like 1,000 something damage when he hits the ground because it's just busted.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. I
high
did
ground stuff
not.
is really fun. It's a fun part of the game. Like there's like the Goblin Camp. Sorry, there's spoilers in Baldur's Gate 3 now. The Goblin Camp. There's like
Stop listening now.
There's like rafters
Mhm.
like across the whole Goblin Camp and like the building of it. And yeah, just like starting the fight from up there, just raining down stuff. It's like,
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not too much of a spoiler. I mean, I will say I feel like the original Baldur's Gate games, like they couldn't include all the
The
rules of D&D
verticality. Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
just because the engine wasn't that powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we've got the power now, and it's
So
showing.
I mean, it's probably cool that they didn't do it completely rules as written. Like they took some liberty. I mean, it basically when I played it, 8 years ago when I first bought it in early access. No, it's cool because it definitely felt like a Divinity. It was basically the Divinity engine, but with D&D rules, which I thought was awesome.
No, but I don't know why I never played Divinity.
I have been wanting to go
You
back and
kind of failed at being a nerd.
That's what I'm saying. No, like even Kat was like,
Cringe.
"You don't like Divinity," and I was like, "I don't know Divinity." And she was like,
it's
"Well,
great.
you're
It's
wrong."
like a good
So-
mix between like fun and like strategy.
Because I'm new to like that Humble Bundle with all of the Baldur's, like the OG Baldur's Gates and all that. Like that was one of my first times stepping into that sort of RPG setting. Because usually I'd like play The Witcher or the Fallout games before, or I mean after they were that sort of turn-based engine. And so it did like I do have 70 hours on the Baldur's 3 now, and I'm like, okay, I am starting to figure out how to use these controls because I just didn't have that experience.
I feel like I fall off of CRPGs once, like pretty often though. The ones I've tried, like I like Wasteland a lot, and I like I had two that I was gonna say. Wasteland. I don't really like KOTOR that much. Or when it came out, I didn't like it that much. And
I did.
oh, Dragon
yeah.
Age. But both of those are like pretty light and kind of story. Like I'm
KOTOR,
kind of interested in the story. KOTOR is not.
it's
it's much more
D&D.
D&D, yeah.
It is D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So like
third
Baldur's Gate's the
edition.
first time I've
Jedi
been like,
D&D.
into a D&D CRPG.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of production value. It's kind of got the old BioWare like storytelling conversation stuff
Mhm.
to where that's hooked me enough to want to learn the system enough. to
I
play.
just find myself completely like surprised by the things that I can do.
yeah.
Because I'll be like, oh, what if I tried this? And it actually like something actually triggers from that. I'm like, this is phenomenal. Like I cannot believe that I get to do whatever I want. It's super fun.
Okay, I think the last. Oh, there's two bigger ones. Okay, resting.
Oh,
Okay, so
Cam.
I think this is a very big difference. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can rest at like short rest at the click of a button, and it's instant. And long rest is like 3 clicks, and you can do it anytime. In Baldur's Gate, the way they like balance it is you have to use camp supplies, which you can loot and buy, but they come very generously. And then you can also even use like good berries as camp supplies. So I have been resting all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. After
Like-
each battle, pretty much. Like
yeah, after
it's
even
kinda
a small
necessary.
battle, I'm like, I could
Yeah, I
use
should
2 more
rest.
spell slots. Yeah. So that's, I feel like that's a really big difference. Like,
use F5 to save. Use it. Don't be like me and go
So-
2 hours without saving.
how do you guys handle resting? Because I feel like the little D&D I've played, it almost feels like a hassle to be like, can we rest? Can we rest? There are very few times in Baldur's Gate there are areas where you're not allowed to rest that are like hostile areas,
Mhm.
but they're not very often.
In previous campaigns, I've set up kind of the way that they have it in BG3, where you have your own camp every time. I used to kind of do that. I'd be like, all right, since you guys are going to be making your camp every time you want to rest, like, what do you want it to look like? What do you want to be there? Like, how you're collecting things on this journey and you're leaving it at camp. or at least like with your wares. So I liked the way that they approached it in that regard, where it's like a separate place you can go to. But past that, I mean, it does feel kind of like a pain during the TTRPG to actually stop and get a rest.
What does your party do?
They never ask me to rest for what it's worth. I'm like, y'all are going to take a point of exhaustion right now if you keep going. Like, are you sure? And they're like, through the night.
Through the night.
But yeah, I mean, I understand why resting works the way it does in BG3. Like, I'm for it, but I kind of hate it. Like in the campaign that I'm running now, there's like a ticking clock. And so there's like, if you guys want to stop and rest, for sure, but like stuff is going to get closer to happening without you.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fair. No, that makes sense.
Which, like, from the DM side can be kind of hard to manage and run. But then again, they don't ever rest anyways.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Get there early.
Yeah.
Team no sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't. It's one of those video gamey things that's like, that's that.
I do appreciate
You know?
it for the fact that
Exactly.
it's in the game. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like the pacing of our campaign is such that they just don't need to utilize rests because a lot
You can
of
break it up during the session.
well, they travel around in a little airship or via teleportation, and so like they're normally at a location just long enough that they're probably out by the time they would need to rest anyway. We did have in an earlier campaign, we did get into this long dungeon, and like a lot of their resources were exhausted, and they were like in the middle of the dungeon, and there were still enemies like in the other rooms, and you're like, can we rest? And I'm like, you guys can rest, but you better make sure you're safe. And so yeah, good on them. They started like barricading doors and like and then they set watch, and I let them long rest in the middle of a dungeon.
Because that makes sense. Like having like people on posts, and you have to kind of like run a shift of it. Like,
I will say, kudos to, I think it's Owlcat Games that does the Pathfinder video games. They put in a really cool rest mechanic in Kingmaker. I think they replicated it for Wrath of the Righteous. But Kingmaker is very much like a ticking clock game. So it's part kingdom management and then part, just Pathfinder role-playing. So everything takes a certain amount of time, like traveling. Like they actually show you traveling along the roads and you see the clock ticking.
Interesting.
And so when you rest, like it always takes 8 hours, but they turned it into almost like a little mini game. So like there's a number of roles like just at camp. So you assign somebody to cook, you assign somebody to like gather food, you assign somebody like to keep watch.
that's not a bad idea at all, actually. I kinda like that.
And Solasta did something similar, but I'm pretty sure Pathfinder game came first. But yeah, and Solasta, which if y'all don't know, Solasta it's like a more crunchy, it's a little more true to 5th edition D&D as a video game than Baldur's Gate. You get woken up at camp like all
I'd
the
imagine
time.
so.
And you got like one character that's awake and they've gotten out of their armor, and like everyone else is still asleep like while the goblins are closing in, and it's cool because it's harrowing. You're like, oh god, not again.
Oh god. Not the gobos.
But it's the same thing. It's like in that game, if you don't rest, then you take on points of exhaustion, so you kind of have to do it, but there's always a risk. So I think for me, if my character is asked to rest more often, I'd probably let them on the table. But I'd be like, there's going to be risks. So that's kind of it.
You could really turn that into like a whole tabletop mechanic, though, with that
I
idea.
think the worst D&D game with resting ever was Neverwinter Nights. I don't know if anybody has played it.
That's on my computer.
It took like 3 seconds to rest. Like you'd go into combat, you just hit a rest button, and 3 seconds later you're like, all right. It was almost meaningless. Like they might as well have just like regenerated all your spells at the end of every combat, because that's how easy it was to rest.
Interesting. You didn't even have to go to camp. You didn't have
Like
to do
no
anything.
resources.
I mean, it was nothing.
Just a free action. Sweet.
I think
reaction
as long as there weren't like enemies in your immediate vicinity, you just hit that button, and it was like 3 seconds later.
I mean, that's kind of what the short rest feels like, because you're really like, and everybody like breathes in like so much, but your characters will start telling you when they're getting exhausted. Like you'll
so
be
tired.
like, God, I can't wait until the next time I can sleep. And then you're like, all right, I get it.
But does anything happen in Baldur's Gate?
I don't know. I haven't taken it that long because I'm like, we gotta go back because the camp is so easy to
I'm not sure
access.
anything happens. At least I've never come across it.
Because eventually, like when I can't see the features of my characters anymore because they're caked in so much blood.
There is a lot
There's no exhaustion
Baldur's Gate.
setting in Baldur's
I'm not.
Gate?
I haven't taken it that
haven't
far.
gotten
Yeah.
there.
I always like because
Because even
of spell
like
slots.
1
and
point
stuff.
of exhaustion is kind of
Yeah.
like 2 points of exhaustion in tabletop is debilitating.
What is 2 is half movement speed, right?
2
Yeah,
is
you're,
like
like,
half movement speed,
slugging.
and I
Yeah.
think
Something
you get
made me do
disadvantage
half
on
movement
like
speed, I
most
would
of your
take care of it
rolls.
instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
You also get
Yeah.
disadvantage on like most of your rolls. I
Yeah,
think,
like
with
if I couldn't
exhaustion,
jump
yeah.
45 feet every action, I'm
What do you guys think
going to
about
bed.
jumping in
I'm
D&D?
going back to
That's
bed.
another. Mac is jumping across. the
I
map.
Jump
built
builds.
I built my younger brother as a character because I found like the face. I was like, oh my god, that's Malone. That's awesome. So I made him a human fighter with a focus on athleticism. He's a wide receiver at a college in Pennsylvania, and I was like, this is gonna be a riot. Like I want to play as him, and he can jump so far. I think he has a proficiency now. He's only level 7, but it completely changes the game because it takes you from the back end of combat quite literally right into the middle, and you can just swing at everybody 4 times.
Does it take movement or a
Yes,
bonus action?
It does,
okay.
it does take movement, but not as much as you'd think. Like there's a tactic to just jump first
Like
and then move.
you
and
can
then get
move further when you
Jumping-
jump.
Yes.
Yeah, jumping, and it's a bonus action. But yeah, if you were to add your jump plus move, it's more than.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tabletop. It's definitely like you can't jump further than you could move.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's really meant for crossing
Well,
gaps or like other hazards. It's not necessarily meant to like move further.
Yeah.
No, he can hoof it. It's crazy.
And
Like I feel like if Mac drank a potion, you could jump further than.
I have a potion in my inventory right
I
now
will
that says
say-
triple your jump speed. And I was like, 90 feet? What am I going to do?
I'll say,
Just-
jumping's pretty boring in tabletop D&D. Like
Yeah.
there's not. It's really like, oh, there's a trap on the floor. I'm going to try to jump over it. It's not really like, oh, I want to leap over people's heads.
I think you're playing D&D wrong.
Because I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm sailing.
Yeah. Just jump off the Nautilus at the beginning. Different game.
Different game.
Yeah.
Different game.
Can you?
Actually.
You tell me.
I don't know. I'm not running the game. I'm a player here.
In Baldur's Gate 3, there are these things called weapon actions. So depending on what you have equipped, like a great sword or a battle axe, they get cleave, which is like it's like a 180 degree swing in front of you, and it's like half damage, 30% damage, something like that on each target. The spears get like rushing attack. The longbows get hamstring shot, which like slows down enemy for less damage.
The hamstring shots do come in clutch. I gotta say,
They seem
you can, like,
cool.
pin
They
somebody.
seem- They give more flavor to like the type of weapon other than the just like hit damage die, that kind of stuff. So I kind of like them.
Oh, 100%.
And I don't use them that much anymore, like in the later levels. But early, it was like, oh, I have something more interesting to do than just attack.
Mhm.
Um,
So I've got a sword that has 2 specific actions to the sword itself, where you can either make it sing a song that boosts your party members, or it takes away from rolls of enemies around you. So you have like 1 or 2 options. I think it takes an action to activate that, and then you can use it, but that does become useful, especially when you're getting swarmed.
I love that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. It gives so much more personality to weapons. And I mean, you already said it makes it more than just a damage die difference.
Exactly.
And if someone's just like hyper fighter, it makes it more interesting for them in the long game too,
It's
I
so much
think.
fun.
You know?
I think tabletop fighters are so boring.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to try one on this to see if it was any better, and it's exceptionally better. Like the movement's phenomenal.
I mean-
the action economy is tremendous. Like
I say they're boring. I mean, you can probably like deal a ton of
I was
damage
gonna say
on
my
tabletop.
numbers are high enough to I'm not bored yet.
But but yeah,
Tell me the money.
as a fighter, yeah, pretty much every combat that comes up, you're like, well, I rush into combat. I mean, the barbarians is the barbarian in my campaign is kind of the same way. It's like, well, I rush into combat. And
Here I go
rage.
killing again.
Yeah.
You're right back into it.
Yeah.
But like you said, like that works for some people. You know what I mean? I prefer 20 spells that I can't decide which to cast and take too long on my turn. So
I prefer 20 spells, and then I'll always cast like the main 2.
fireball anyways.
That's a every.
But when you need the 19th spell.
Oh boy.
Wait, I have
I'm always like, so
Speak with dead.
my buddy Sean seems to be absent more often than not than the other guys, and he plays the cleric in the party. So I always get excited when I get to play.
When you get to play the cleric.
Or I've gotten to play the cleric and the bard, and I'm like, let me show you guys how to play a spell.
I need to play a bard.
Fireball.
When I was the bard, all I did every turn was cast command, and like everyone just kept lying
command
down.
is crazy.
Command, they just kept lying down on the ground, and they're like, nobody could do anything. I'm like, yeah.
Stomp.
And then when I was the cleric, it was kind of the same.
Yeah. I've been discovering those like control spells are crazy at each level. The command was crazy, and then hold person was crazy, and then now like slow is crazy. And, there's a lot.
What's her name from Chainsaw?
The control spells.
Slow
yeah,
can
it's the-
target like 6 people.
Yeah.
Oh man,
You just watched
you
Chainsaw
gotta
Man.
try
What's
slow. Have you tried slow?
girl with the pink hair and the irises?
Yeah.
What is her name?
Chainsaw Girl.
No. Yeah. Starts with an M, I think. I don't know.
Miss Chainsaw Girl.
Miss. Yes, correct.
Miko.
Yeah, it'll come back to me.
Anyways,
It'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Because that's the control spells are nuts when it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Oops, spoilers.
Okay, last big one, and then quick fire. Respecking. Baldur's Gate 3 is super
Dude.
easy to respec. It's 100 gold. You talk to this guy that shows up at your camp. He's a little weird. He's like
He's like a lich.
undead lich
Yeah.
guy, but he's just chilling.
He's so
kinda
cool.
judgmental. He's kind of judgmental. He's like,
Oh, I don't talk to the NPCs enough for them to like flirt with me or get weird. I'm always like,
oh, I'm always.
it is our duty, and then I leave the conversation. Like they could be like, hey, I mean like, go fight some shit. Like,
So yeah, you talk to this guy named Withers, and he's 100 gold, and it puts you at level 1, and you can choose your own class again,
Mhm.
and then you just
basically
level back up.
start all the way over. You literally start over.
Yeah,
And
and you
you
can
can-
respect your party
You can
members.
respect the characters you find in the game. I didn't know that until recently. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
very nice.
Like that makes a
Yeah.
big difference because then you can completely hone your team to exactly what you need it to.
Wait, you can even change their class.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah. So like,
So you can pick
lore-
up a Asterion and be like, I want you to be
Yeah.
a cleric.
exactly.
Oh, that's
no,
cool.
you can
Lore
switch
lore
them.
wise, they still
Arb
act
Styrian.
like their original
Mhm.
That's
class
cool.
most of the
Okay.
time. But I think there are some voice lines if you change them to where they slightly change, like the combat dialogue changes. So,
I haven't gone too far with that. I've just kind of respect them into their classes, but made them the way I wanted to play as them.
Yeah.
So that's definitely helped like my playthrough. But there's so much opportunity
Yeah.
for it, especially with like
I've
multi-classing,
gone
which I
too
have
far.
not. Yeah,
I
I have
will-
not
everybody's
touched.
multi-class.
I have not touched multi-classing
Yeah,
yet.
three out of 4 are multi-class.
Oh, no. Who's the one that's not?
Like I said, I have a warlock paladin
Okay.
because I
Bold move.
I needed packed weapon because I got and I dumped strength. Right, I dumped some stat. Oh no, I dumped dexterity because I found the dexterity
Oh, yeah,
gloves
that's
that
what
give
you're
you
saying,
18.
Nope.
And then I just
Yeah, it's disgusting.
yeah, and then I just pumped charisma, and then bind weapon gives you
Which
sure
I-
weapons do your spell modifier instead of strength. So he's smacking, and then if he can't reach the smacking, he just Eldritch Blasts.
Which-
So it's awesome.
I kind of love that you got that item because I can remember the specific moment in Baldur's Gate 1 where
Yeah.
you get the Gloves of Dexterity.
It is awesome.
Yeah, I've found
Um,
myself like picking up items that completely change a character for me. I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, I gotta respect them now so they can use the thunder gloves.
I will
Like-
say, I love when games let me respec.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I want to respec, but it makes me think less. Like every time I level up, like
Yeah.
I don't have that like anxiety of choosing the wrong thing.
I think Borderlands 2 did that really well.
Because I think there's always that like I've definitely like played games before where basically you make the wrong decisions enough that you get a character that's just not that useful.
Yeah.
I respect the ranger
Um,
like 6 times. Because I'm like beasts, okay, and then they kind of suck. I don't know. They're probably better later.
That talk to animals though, man. It opens up
Well, I keep
all
talking to
of this
animals.
other dialogue that I didn't consider because I wouldn't talk to the bear, and the bear was like, "What's good?" Like it's crazy to being able to actually talk to like the animals and be friends with them.
Then
That's
I tried
wild.
Hunter. Boring. And I tried Gloomstalker and I'm like, okay, he's good, but then I multi-classed into a rogue.
Rogue Ranger is not a bad idea.
The other two are their same classes. I
Do you
got a
have to split
wizard
your
and I've got
levels?
a fighter.
I
Can
have
you-
a question.
Yeah.
If you run a party with 4 bards,
My buddy sent me a message about that this morning.
Can you-
Absolutely.
can you start a band in the game though?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If you
You can?
if you-
I picked up
if
a lute
you
yesterday.
Use one
Let's
character
go.
playing the lute, and then you choose another character to play like
The
They
Flash.
start playing different.
no, they play the same song.
Same
they play the
song?
different.
They
stems
play
of
it
the same
together?
song. Yeah. They thought of everything.
Bro, I'll be whipping out that
4
flute
bard
even when
party.
I'm not proficient with it. I'll just be like, scoot, scoot, scoot. And it's like, poor performance. I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's pretty good.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that.
I feel like if I was gonna DM, I would like to put in points in the game where you could respec. Like maybe not 100 gold, but I don't know. I like the idea of allowing it somehow.
That's
Maybe
pretty
come up
cheap.
with some lore to have a reason to respec.
Like a divine intervention with the gods.
Yeah.
And like if you're a paladin, you gotta like tell that
Well,
guy
the weird
off.
thing
Yeah.
with Baldur's
Leave me
Gate
alone.
is
Yeah.
It doesn't even tell you what your future levels will do. There's no like tech tree in the game, so like I didn't really know what like level 6 Beastmaster would do.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, we'll see what happens.
I was
See what I get.
when I was DMing Pathfinder. There was a point where we only had 3 players, and so I let them each play 2 characters, and then we got the 4th human person to come play, and I was like, all right, you guys got to pick one character to move forward with. And I told them, I was like, it could just be kind of like a dugout situation.
That's,
like
that's
if you
some
wanna,
Dungeon Crawl Classics attitude. Right
you
there.
want to switch in the other character, like you can, and they never did. They
Go to
never
camp.
wanted to. But I would kind of, I guess that if on my tabletop game, that would probably be my version of respecing. I'd be like, bring in a new character.
That's fair. No,
And
that's
like,
reasonable.
let's work them in. And then like, I'm totally fine if like your other character is leveling up in the background. Like, I'm not going to let you make you take like a level hit just because you want to try something new.
How would you feel about turning it into like a quest line?
That I feel like is 10 out of 10.
It sounds
'Cause
awesome.
that's like,
for it.
Sounds
someone is
yeah.
like, I
but
want to
don't know
change.
that I have time to
Yeah.
do it.
If I want to change, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, the only way to do that is
Is you
based
have to
on what
die.
you've heard.
Yeah.
You gotta bite the dust.
I also like the idea of like if they're taking like a multi-class level of like a party member or something. Look, teach me how to be a rogue. Teach me how to sneak around.
Mm.
Then that works.
I've been toying with the idea of you having to pick what your next level is going to be when you level up. So like you get to level 10, you have to decide what your level 11 is going to be. So like
Okay.
the idea being that like your character is actually working toward the thing.
That's
But
reasonable.
they're-
No, I see what you
So
mean.
it's like
That's smart.
taking a little bit of the metagame out of it and more like putting it into the role playing. Like, oh, like
this is
all
what I
during level
aspire.
10, like this is what I'm working toward.
Yeah.
Okay. I see what
That
you mean.
makes sense
No,
because
that's
in my
a
game,
cool idea.
my warlock suddenly became a paladin.
Right. Well,
Yeah. All of a sudden, he just
And
shows
there
up
He's
like,
his morality changed.
there are some DMs
I'm good now.
that like I think
Oh,
it's
really
like a
nice
Matt
guy.
Mercer thing. Like he'll make you figure out how to work it into
Yeah.
your character
Yeah.
story arc.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's not possible when you get to that level and you're like, I think I really want to be a warlock. Like it's you kind of have to be thinking about it in advance.
Yeah.
So I still haven't done that at my table, but I've been toying with the idea.
Yeah, I think I'm like as far as Baldur's Gate goes, I feel like every answer I'm going to give is going to be like works great for the video game. I wouldn't do it.
Comma, but.
But like if I have a character at my table playing a barbarian, he's not going to be a wizard unless he gets like a smart hat.
You'll never be a wizard.
You know,
There is a smart hat.
I know.
In Baldur's Gate 3.
Smart
There-
hat.
dude.
Spoilers. There's a
And it looks cool. A nice
there's a
floppy
very
hat.
smart ogre you can. Is that ogre?
Oh, I
No?
I think I know.
No.
The big
No,
guys.
he's-
I would-
That's an ogre. A troll? No, I don't know.
Whatever they're called.
I would love to see like somebody play a really dumb barbarian wizard though.
Yeah.
And like they just fail constantly.
So there is. I got a set of gloves that lights you on fire. You literally, and I gave it to my monk, which I was like, "That's so meta." Are there any history buffs out there? That became a lot of fun because I was like, "Okay, now we can try to like team up. Like, I'll light you on fire. You go in there and start swinging." Like,
There's a lot of good interactions.
There's
Even
a
the
lot
simple
of good-
stuff. Like yesterday, when you do co-op, you have simultaneous turns sometimes. So yesterday, I was just waiting on my turn, and I was like, Mac, after you do your actions, shove that guy. And he shoved him 3 feet, and I was like timing it. So as soon as he got shoved, I like hit the lightning.
oh, dude,
call
it was
lightning.
so good.
It was good.
I shoved him back. He hit the deck. Like, it was game over for that guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's
so
a lot of
well
good
done.
Interactions. Okay. Good talk, guys. I got a quick fire round.
What is this? Is this you
Quick
say
fire.
it yay or nay? Is what we say
Just
back?
first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
There's no grappling in BG3. What do you think?
Let me wrestle.
That's
Let me
fine.
throw down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine that there's no
Yeah.
grappling.
The extra shoves make up for
Grappling's
the lack
hard.
of grappling.
Okay.
Even fifth, yeah.
Yeah.
I keep envisioning the grappling. It was like a workflow that you had to work through for grappling in third edition. It was awful. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
No dodge action.
No dodge action?
No dodge action.
Is there something
No
that
flanking
replaces it?
either. No.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'm pro no flanking. I feel like it'd be too easy to break that for Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. That's a good point. 'Cause, like you have your like assassin abilities, which kind of let you like flank.
There is
little
a
bit.
like line of sight.
yeah.
It's very specific in Baldur's Gate. They like have vision cones, like Metal Gear Solid or something. But
Yeah, if you squat
Is there
down
flanking
high-
in tabletop though?
I guess technically.
I think so.
I thought it was just threatening. Yeah, I didn't think it
there's
was.
still threatening in Baldur's Gate. I
Yeah,
thought there was flanking.
I didn't think.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know you might be able to get like an advantage, like, but I
Right.
feel like it'd be a table ruling.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
I think they got rid of real flanking in fifth edition.
Mm.
I could be wrong.
There's
Dodge, no dodge action's weird to me.
Yeah.
Just because.
Usually just jump away, run
Yeah.
farther.
Yeah, it's kind of like the only way in tabletop
Keep
to
going.
like actually be defensive. Yeah.
There's no flight control, so flying is always point to point. You can't like float.
Huh.
Because tactically, like in the tabletop,
Can you like
And
point to
that's
point
fun.
multiple times though? Like
Yes.
5
Yeah.
feet, then 10
Yeah.
feet, then.
Yeah.
Okay.
but you can't levitate.
You can't levitate.
Okay. Because that I know that's like a drown.
Do you always have to
spell.
end on the ground though?
Yes.
Yes.
Always?
Yeah.
Even with the fly spell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Yeah. It's like my ravens can fly, but they have to land somewhere that somebody could stand.
That's wrong.
Incorrect.
Honestly, that
Try
seems
again.
like the it wouldn't. I don't know. It seems,
makes
with all
flying
the other
much less
stuff they
cool.
broke, yeah. Why did they break flying?
I mean, it would be pretty hard to implement. I feel.
Yeah.
Because
'Cause
you
there's-
have to like pick a point in the
That's
air.
in Celesta though.
How does Celeste do it?
Celesta, there's a lot of climbing on walls in Celesta too, which I
Mm.
was kind of surprised by. Is interesting. But yeah, every battlefield it's cubes, so it's like you move up one. I mean, you can.
Oh, so it's like it's an X, Y, and Z axis you
Yeah,
can move across. Interesting. Okay.
So basically, flying in Baldur's Gate is just overcoming terrain that you.
yeah.
It's like a
run
means
around
of it's a
usually.
means of transportation.
Yeah.
Really, not much more past that.
Okay.
Okay, that's the end. I have what Catherine wrote,
What did Catherine write?
which is pretty much, I think, what you guys.
Cat's
were saying.
Corner.
Catherine said, I think my biggest takeaway is BG3 taking rules that are most commonly homebrewed and adapting them to video game mechanics, especially in narrative heavy campaigns. The bonus action for everyone is common, bonus action potions being popular. I like running sessions where short rests are 15 minutes. I think the DM guide suggests around an hour. I love the respec aspect. I've had sessions where a DM lets me switch a level to something else in exchange for a nerf or on an ability until my next level up, and have listened to watched shows where it's narratively satisfying to change the entire build of a character. Extra action specifically to melee weapons makes so much sense. People love to complain about the power progression scale for melee versus casters, and giving weapons sometimes something like cleave is a sick idea.
True.
Didn't even realize that was a haste buff. LOL. I think I play that at tables I've been at because rule of cool, baby. All in all, I think the virtual adaptation of a body of rules as
Rule
well,
of cool, comma, baby, or like rule of cool, baby. Like,
comma, baby, as well known as 5e, really just demonstrates the fact that you can change the rules and still have a blast. You got to know the rules to break the rules. And
Ain't that the
breaking rules
truth?
is fun as hell.
Ain't that the truth, baby?
Ain't that the truth?
Which I think
Baby.
is about where we
Comma,
ended
baby.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cool. Thanks for talking, guys. That was fun.
No,
Kind
no,
of
that's
a fun little podcast thing. Introduce Steven to the
Steven to the universe.
viewers. Steven to the universe.
Whoa.
And what's that from?
Steven Universe.
Steven Universe. literally a show called Steven Universe.
right. Am I wrong?
What's the reference?
What did you mean by that?
Cool. We'll see you guys at PAX West next week.
It's this week.
It is this week.
It is this
Jeez,
weekend.
we're
We
leaving
leave tomorrow.
We're leaving
Sheesh.
tomorrow. Treasured Realm is going to release. We have news to share about Treasured Realm. The numbered cards this month came back and they're all blurry. So we are going to send out info cards without numbers, but we're going to throw in a Wizard Cat sticker or D20 Cat sticker, one of those stickers to as a make good. Sorry about that, but we will be back to numbered cards next month.
You can blame me.
I will blame.
It's really my fault.
Don't let Andrew say that. It's been my fault.
Nobody. We can blame Steven. We
Yeah.
already talked about
Blame-
this.
Yeah.
Can we
my
blame
bad,
Adobe?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can we
Adobe.
blame Adobe software engineering?
So Treasured Realm is still going to release first of the month. I expect a short delay on the Treasured Realm just because we'll be out until the 4th. And it's really tasty this month. Natural Ethiopian called Mormora. There's a
More.
There's a
Give me
crown.
more.
Yeah, that's.
Can I have some more
I don't know
Momora?
if that's yeah.
Can we?
Yeah.
Are we gonna have to cut that out?
More. Yeah. The
Censor me.
No, I think it was fine. That's it. Any other news?
No.
I hope
New
you all have a good
playmats.
day.
We put
Yeah.
the playmats out because they're so cute.
This one's got sheep on it
Mine's
Yeah.
old.
and a
These
goblin.
these
with
are
a big old
damaged,
wagon.
so if you saw like a wrinkle on them, these are the damaged ones. But
Nobody saw that until.
Dude, did you find out?
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Bummer.
Bye.
Stay beautiful.
Bye.